I have the honor of introducing our speaker for today. Good morning, Nicole. Okay, Nicole Landau has been learning with women for over 20 years, Baruch Hashem, at the Mayan Bina Seminary, recently renamed the Hazel Sassoon Women's Learning Center in Johannesburg. She also teaches at the Amuna Seminary in Glen Hazel and loves inspiring young people at the Orsam Student Kiruv organization. Nicole's shirim range from text-based explorations to talks filled with joyous hashkafic excitement. We're so looking forward to hearing from you today. Thank you so much for coming, Nicole.
Hello, you wonderful women on this very hush of gathering. I love joy, love it. It just gives me such infinite amounts of joy. So thank you, Linda. Thank you, Nomi, for inviting me again. And joy should be the correct approach, especially since we're moving towards Rosh Chodesh Adar Sheni. About 3 years ago, I heard a shir from Rabbi Gladstein that answered a question that had plagued me for quite a while. And I found the idea to be so soul nourishing. So I just want to share that with you today, and hopefully we'll enjoy nourishing our souls together. So let's begin. Every single Motzei Shabbos, at the end of Shabbos, there's this buffer zone that we go through. So we come out of this light-filled, Kedusha-filled day, and we have this gentle buffering experience called Havdala. Drink some wine, sniff some spices, look at some light. It feels a little bit spiritual. But what are we really doing? We're going from this light-filled, Kedusha-filled day into this less light. It's dark, it's Motzei Shabbos, but our regular weekday is a little bit blurred, a little bit opaque. We can't see Hashem so clearly. And we've got this ritual that we have in between. Now, what plagued me for so long is, there's that line in Havdala, and we say La Yehudim, all together we say La Yehudim, Haisa, Ore, V'simcha, V'sason, V'ikar. To the Jews, there was light and simcha, and it's certain another highest level of simcha, and ikar, some kind of honor, some kind of precious joy. And I used to think, because I don't think about it so much, I used to think, is the Megillah in Purim, in Havdala? Is Havdala in the Megillah? Because during the Megillas Esther, when we're reading the Megillah on Purim, there are a few lines that we say together. And one of the lines that we say together is, La Yehudim, Haisa, I'm not going to sing, we've got other singers here, Oire v'simcha v'sason v'ikar. Except during Havdala, what do we say? We say 3 extra words. And we say, Kain tieh lanu. So should be for us. Which means every single Motzei Shabbos after Shabbos, we're going into the week, we quote something from the Megillah, from the whole Purim story, and we say, like those Jews who had this extraordinary joy and light, so should be for us every single week at the end of Shabbos as we go into the week. So what's that about? And also the Ramah of Moshe Isserles brings, if you want to up your halachic observance of Havdalah, take some of your hadassim from the 4 species at Sukkot, chop them up, put them into your spices, and add them to your spices. Because hadassim is the word hadassah, and hadassah is Esther. So let's add Esther into the spices, into the mix. And the Chasam Sofer comes along and says, and the wicks at Havdalah, you don't just have a single wicked candle, you should at least have like a double wick. So he says the Chasam Sofer, that's Mordechai and Esther, the 2 wicks. Hold on a second. So the whole of Havdalah is couched. Actual Havdalah is just the phrase saying, Baruch HaMavdil Bein Kodesh L'Chol. Blessed is he who distinguishes between the holy and the profane. And he said that over wine. And now it seems to be couched with this phraseology and the spices and the flame and Purim every single Motzei Shabbos. So let's take that idea, put it on the front burner of our stove. We're going to cook up something towards the end. Just remind me not to let it get burnt, because we're going to answer that at the end. Bezras Hashem. As we come into Adar, so Baruch Hashem, this year we've had a whole extra month of Adar. There's a phrase that comes into people's minds. Again, why don't you all just sing with me at the same time? And then you won't hear my voice. But what's the phrase? We say, Mishe Nichnas Adar, right? Marbin, my thank you. I can see some singers. Right. Marvin b'simcha. As soon as we enter into Adar, we increase in simcha. So we've had the month already of simcha. Now we're going to increase even more in simcha. The question that Rabbi Gladstein asked, which I absolutely adored, he says, who says this? This phrase that we know so well, that we look forward to every single year as we come into Adar. Who says it? So listen to the name of the person who brings this phrase in the Gemara. His name is Rav Yehuda. That's his name. Brei de Rav Shmuel, from Rav Shmuel, Bar Shilas. So, it always tracks it in the Gemara. It comes from this one, from this one, from this one. So it's Rav Yehuda in the name of Rav Shmuel Bar Shilas, the son of Shilas. Shilas, funny name. Rav Yehuda, Rav Shmuel, I'm okay. Rav Meir, Hillel, Shammai, throw those names at me, I'm fine. Shilas, look what Shilas looks like. Just have a look at that. It's such a strange name. I know my screen sharing is very middle age. So there's Shilas. What a strange name. So put that on the other burner of our shiur stove. Havdala and Purim on the one side, Shilas on the other side, and happiness. The third question that Rabbi Gladstein brings that I adored is he says, the Gemara says that Hashem makes a name for himself with the Megillah. So what's the general understanding that's always given? And it's a brilliant hashkafic understanding, and it's necessary, and we should all know it, is he says, well, Hashem's name isn't in the Megillah. You don't find Yud Kevovke, you don't find Elokim, you don't find Shaka, you don't find Adnus. Fine, when it says Hamelech, the king, and not Achashverosh, it's a reference to Hashem. Very nice. And the hashkafa behind that is that, well, we don't really see Hashem so much in the world, and the Megillah comes to teach us that Hashem's always there no matter what, coordinating everything, and there's no such thing as coincidence, etc., etc. Beautiful. But there's something a little bit more sophisticated that I'd like us to explore today about that idea of Hashem using the Megillah as a mechanism to establish his modus operandi through history and what that is. So let's have a little quick historical journey. Don't switch off your brains. This can be fun. History can be fun. The Jews came out of us. We came out of Mitzrayim, out of Egypt in the year, drum roll, 2448 in the Jewish year from the beginning of time. So that's about minus 1,300 odd years before the Common Era. We then spent 40 years in the desert, 40 years with the clouds of glory, pillars of fire, manna falling down from the heavens, eating food that we didn't have to digest. It was completely nourishing spiritual radiance that physicalized in the world. Our clothes were being laundered constantly. We grew with our clothes. We were literally called the Dor Dea, the generation of knowledge. We completely, utterly saw, knew Hashem, and we still had free choice. It was the most intense, extraordinary generation I can imagine to live in. We then went from the desert. People sometimes don't realize this, into Eretz Yisrael, and we were there for about 850 odd years, actually. It's quite a while. And of that time, we've got the Mishkan and direct communication and prayers. And at the end of that phase, for the last 410 years, we've got the first temple, the Beis HaMikdash, 10 miracles, prophecy, direct, clear communication with Hashem. First phase of history. Great. The first Beis HaMikdash is destroyed. The Babylonians, we end up in exile. The 70-year story of Persia happens. The Purim story happens in that juncture. At the end of that Purim story, we go back to Eretz Yisrael. The second Beis HaMikdash is rebuilt. No prophecy. In fact, if you want to think about it, the Megillah is incorporated into Tanakh because there is a little bit of prophecy that remains. It's a form of divine inspiration. The Hanukkah story, we don't have it written down as part of Tanakh because then prophecy is going and dwindling and leaving. And there aren't miracles, and it's dark, and it's difficult, and it's challenging. And then the second Beis HaMikdash is destroyed, and we are now living in the aftermath of that second Beis HaMikdash, the second phase of history. So let's make this as simple and clear as possible. We have first phase of history, second phase of history. The pivotal experience is the Purim story between these two phases of history. Rabbi Tat says it, we have to quote him at least once in any shiur. says it so magnificently. He says the first phase of history is male. And yes, I'm making generalizations, but these are spiritual archetypes, which I'm sure you can all cope with. The first phase of history is male. The second phase of history is female. The male, general male functioning in the world is external, direct, straightforward. What you see is what you get. It's all out there. Second phase of history goes a bit darker. It's more internal. It's deeper, a little bit moody, hormonal, challenging, emunah-driven. In fact, Rabbi Tat says it even better when he says the male, all maleness is about initiating the process, beginning a process. Femaleness is then the whole process all the way to completion. So in the intimacy between a husband and wife, the husband very kindly donates that initiating genetic material. The wife then takes it, goes deeply internal, nurtures, nourishes in the dark, challenging the pregnancy, the whole labor, the birth, the whole story. And isn't it remarkable that we have two protagonists in the Purim story, the male and the female, Mordechai and Esther? You've got Mordechai hearkening back to the first phase, and Esther leading us into the second phase of history. And the Megillah, the story of the Megillah, is Hashem's message to us as to what is his mechanism through the second phase of history. So now it's actually a very simple mechanism, but I just love it. I just love the way it's expressed so simply. Sometimes when spiritual concepts seem too complicated, maybe they are too complicated. So let's go with the simple, and maybe we can hold that with us all day, every day. I'm going to say it with one tiny example, and then I'm going to flesh it out with a few other examples. In the Megillah, Haman builds a gallows to hang Mordechai. The same gallows are used to hang Haman. So whatever the mechanism is that is being generated by evil in the world, there is an immediate, in fact, maybe it's even preceding, there's a spiritual recycling, a spiritual repurposing of the very same mechanisms. Not that Hashem interferes or has to deal with, oh my word, there's a Rosha and he's busy doing something. Hashem, you better come and sort this out. You better end his plot. You better bring something better. Hashem is always, there's always compassion. There's always mercy. There's always a process of Hashem's goodness supervising constantly. The Rosha, the evil person has got free choice. In fact, now it's so apropos with what's happening in the world. Free choice. But Hashem's mercy is constantly recycling whatever the evil person makes a choice to do in the world. I'm going to give you the most magnificent example. I'll answer that at the end. So there was a message sent just to me. So the most beautiful example of this, and we're going to give out a shout out to Pesach. Yay, Pesach's coming soon. Let's celebrate, everyone. So from the Pesach story, what happens is Paro hears that there's a Jewish leader that's going to be born. He wants to get rid of this Jewish leader, absolutely terrified that the Jews are going to be redeemed. So what's Paro's decree? Paro's decree is I want all the boys to be thrown into the river. Let's get rid of all the Jewish boys, then we're going to be fine. So because of this, Moshe has to be hidden. Moshe gets hidden. He gets hidden in the basket, in the river. Basia magnificently goes down. She's the most extraordinary human being. And she goes down to toivel herself in the river. She's attempting to do some form of conversion. In fact, it was actually the 6th of Sivan, according to some opinions. She was connecting to the energy of the giving of the future, giving of the Torah, what that energy is all about. Because now Moshe is born on the 7th of Adar. So if he's hidden for 3 months, it was the day before the Egyptians would have found out that he's born. So he's, anyhow, never mind. Anyhow, so Basia goes down to the river and she finds this Babala and she takes it home. I mean, you try to work this out. I don't know what she did. She must have been the most extraordinary woman. She comes home and says, Abba, here's your new grandson. It's just magnificent if you think about it. And Paro takes this child into his home. I mean, play with this story. If Basia goes out one night, she says, Abba, will you babysit? And there's 3-year-old little Moshe running off to Paro in the middle of the night. Can he come and cuddle? He can't sleep. Paro is raising Moshe Rabbeinu in his home. When Moshe is sitting at the table, Paro is saying to him, sit up straight. You are going to be the future leader of Egypt. He's paying for his education. He's saying, straighten your tie. Behave like a leader, not like a slouch. So the Ibn Ezra brings, he says, if Moshe Rabbeinu had stayed in his own home and been raised in a household with slave mentality, you couldn't possibly have emerged as the leader of the Jewish people. So what's Paro's original decree? Paro's decree, his evil decree, and it was evil, and it was terrible, and there were Jewish people, and his very decree leads to he grooms. If you didn't get cold shivers, don't tell me. He grooms the future leader of the Jewish people. So there's no, it's almost like sometimes we say, oh Hashem, I'm in such a story, please sort it out. Hashem's always part of the story. We don't have to have him come in to sort it out. So let's take a little bit further. I'll bring 2 other examples from because I know it's early morning some places and you've all got things to do and people to see. And so I'll bring 2 examples from the Megillah, and then I've got to answer our 2 questions. Shilas and Havdala. So here are examples from the Megillah. There are 2 other, beautiful one. At the beginning of the story, Vashti, Achashverosh wants her to come down to the party, and she doesn't come down, and he wants to, what is he going to do with his wife? Has frozen. Can someone message that you are actually still on the screen with me, that it's just my screen that's frozen? I'm not talking.
Nicole, it's I don't know about everybody else. It's going in and out. The Wi-Fi is going in and out. You're going in and out. Nicole?
Yes, in and out.
Hello, yes. I'm back. I think my internet just dropped, but I'm back.
Nicole, You're going in. When you speak, you're going in and out. The Wi-Fi is going in and out.
Oh no. So I don't quite know what to do about that. Is it better now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
is that a bit better?
Yes, we
Okay,
hear
let's
you.
hope that's okay. Good. So let me bring 2 other examples from the Megillah and then wrap up the questions. Bezras Hashem. So example number 1, Vashti. Vashti, it's the party, Achashverosh's party, and Vashti doesn't want to come, and Achashverosh wants to make a decision to kill his wife. This is a big decision to make. So what is so intriguing, the Vilna Gaon brings, and he says, Achashverosh was a cruel dictator, and he could make unilateral decisions about anything except his personal matters. That's quite intelligent at the time. He's not objective about his personal matters. He has to consult with his ministers. So he couldn't just off with Vashti's head. But actually what happened is Haman came along to Achashverosh because Haman was having issues with his own wife and wanted to make sure that there was more respect from his wife to him. And he whispers in Achashverosh's ear and he says, Achashverosh, get rid of the law that says that you cannot make personal decisions. I don't know, that hurts my brain when I try to think about how he could do that. So he removes the law that he cannot make personal decisions, and he kills his wife. At the end of the whole Purim story, what happens is Haman is at a Seudah with Esther. And I don't know what Haman's thinking, but Achashverosh goes out, and Haman looks like he's trying to take advantage of Esther, and Achashverosh comes running back in and says, Haman, what are you doing with my wife? And now he has to make a decision what to do with Haman over a personal matter. Now, if the law still existed that he couldn't make a decision about personal matters, he would have had to consult with his ministers, and all his ministers were in cahoots with Haman and would have supported Haman. But Haman made sure that that law was removed. And now Achashverosh can say, hang Haman on the gallows. And it's just beautiful. One more example, come on, just for fun. We're reading through the Megillah, and we're all sitting there trying to concentrate on every single word. And we come to the reading of the 10 sons, and everyone's so excited. Yes, we've read the 10 sons. And people think, I'm sure the Megillah must be finished by now. And then you start paging and you realize that if people are smiling at them, there's so many pages left to go. But I thought the story was finished. And the pages become quite technical. It starts discussing Hashverosh imposes taxes on the islands and this city and that city, and discussing monetary things that are happening in the 127 provinces. And really, can we just go and celebrate Purim? So Esther remains in the palace. Now that's a whole other story to learn as well. And she gives birth to a son, Darius. And Darius receives an enormous inheritance as the next king. And the inheritance is all these taxes, as well as an extortionate amount of money that Haman actually paid Ahasuerus in order to have the dubious privilege of doing away with the Jewish people. And this money gets spiritually laundered, of course, by Hashem, because it gets sent to Eretz Israel for the rebuilding of the Beis HaMikdash, for the second Beis HaMikdash. So this is extraordinary. The whole setup is extraordinary. It's not just Hashem is behind, running the show, and every now and again we can call on him and he'll help. No, there is a constant backdrop, forward drop, front drop, everything drop of rachamim and mercy. And in that framework, there are evil situations and situations of suffering that need to happen, but they're constantly being spiritually recycled. Like one of our brethren, what was it? Einstein, who says, what energy cannot be created or destroyed? It's only converted from one substance to another, one state to another. Never mind that. You just forget that. So what is this? We've got this mechanism. And if you think about it, it can generate great joy. The Ramah, let's quote him again, Rav Moshe Isserles, right at the beginning, the first comment, halachic comment that he makes, I think it's in the Mishnah Berurah. He says, first thing, for any Yid, Shavisi Hashem lenegdi tamid. Place Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, before me, always. So every day I need to walk around, and I've honestly got to believe and see that Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, the name of Rachamim, is everywhere all the time. I mean, play this out. Imagine for 24 hours you had your personal experience of Shavisi Hashem Lenegdi Samid. Like whatever you looked at, Hashem's Yud Kei Vav Kei name came out at you, and you suddenly felt overwhelmed, embraced with a feeling of mercy and compassion. So Hashem's saying this is actually what is happening. This is the Megillah story. This is what's happening every day during the second phase of history. But we can't see it. And the Ramah says you've got to Shavisi Hashem Lenegdi Tamid. Here's a magic trick. You want to see a magic trick? Wake up in the morning, for those of you in the mornings. Yeah, I've got to do it. Let me just do it. Look. Shivisi, the Shin, Hashem, Yud Kei Vav Kei, Lenegdi, Tamid. Shilas. Rav Yehuda from Rav Shmuel, our Shilas. Shilas is the person who understands Shavisi Hashem Lenegdi Tamid is the individual who will write in the Gemara, Misheniknas Adar, Marubim B'Simcha, we increase in Simcha, because Simcha is generated, if one can honestly try and create rose-colored glasses, Yud Kei Vav Kei colored glasses through which we filter existence constantly. Okay. Can people hear me? Someone says they can't hear.
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay, good.
I can hear.
So let's take this one more step further, because I need to answer Havdala. You know, if people haven't heard the whole share, as long as you hear this last 5 minutes, that will be just great. Hashem. So here we go. I'm far away. I'm in South Africa. I mean, what am I doing here?
No, we can't hear you.
Wi-Fi. So here we go. In the Megillah story, what are we called? Are we called Bnei Israel? Are we called Klal Israel? Are we called Yehudim? And we say this every Motzei Shabbos. We say La Yehudim Haisa Ora V'Simcha V'Sason V'Ikar. And what is a Yehudi? A Yehudi is the word Yehudah. Yehudah, my Koki is like dying here. That's a marker. So Yehudah, sorry, my whiteboard marker's drying out. Yehudah is the name, Yud and the Hey and the Vav and the Hey. And you've got this Dalet, this letter Dalet. So Yud and Hey and the Vav and the Hey is Hashem's name. And Dalet is the letter 4, which is earth, air, fire, water, north, south, east, west, the 4 mothers, physicality. We became people. We are called La Yehudim. We became people who, can you imagine, we'd had our first temple destroyed. We were in exile in Persia. The dictator, the Meshuggah dictator at the time, was celebrating with our Kalim from the Beis HaMikdash that the Beis HaMikdash is not being rebuilt. And our own prophecy, which was miscalculated, is saying that our Beis HaMikdash is not being rebuilt. We are completely finished. And we've got the capacity. We become a people who are able to see. Hold on a second. There's a 9-year story of this Megillah, of this process that we've gone through, of absolute torture. We cannot see miracles. We've hardly got any prophecy. It's just gone. And we become La Yehudim. We see Yud Kei Vav Kei. We see Hashem's mercy. And we filter that. We become Yehudim. So this is what I want to end with Havdala. Let's bring that off the pot. It was getting burnt. So Rav Klatzin brings from Rav Hutner. He says, at the end of the whole story of Purim, the Jews and Mordechai were having a discussion. How are we going to commemorate this Purim, this event that's happened? And Mordechai wanted to make it a Yom Tov, an actual Yom Tov, no driving, all the laws of Yom Tov, to have a very special, energy-filled day, distinct from the rest of the year. And the people said, no, we don't want to have Yom Tov. It needs to be a regular day. So Rav Hutner points out and says, at the end of Yom Tov, just like Shabbos, we have Havdala. And the people were saying, we don't want to have a Yom Tov where we're going to say Havdala and then go out of Purim. When we have Purim, when we celebrate Purim, which is the booster experience of Purim every 14th of Adar, we don't want to make Havdala because we don't go out of Purim. Purim is 24/6 the whole year. So that means that every single Shabbos, when we go into a zone of greater clarity, we go into this light-filled area where it's not as dark as during the week, where we can connect more to Hashem Shekhinah, where we can get closer to what reality is actually about. When we come out of every single Shabbos, what we're going into, we're not just going into the week. We're going into the second phase of history. We're going into our Purim experience. Purim's been going on now for over 2,000 years, every single day. And as we go into our Purim Motzei Shabbos, every Motzei Shabbos, we say to ourselves, hold on a second, relax, calm down. La Yehudim Haisa Oira. If I can be a Yehudi, if every single day I can look at the world, no matter what is happening, and see Hashem's compassion enveloping all of it, even if I can't see it, I've got to imagine I can see it. And if I can become a Yehudi, then there's going to be Oira and Simcha and Sason and Tikar. That's what we say. Kain Tieh Lanu. Our brocha for us at the end of Shabbos every week is we say, so it should be for us. We should become like a Purim Yid. I'm going to sniff a little bit of Esther. I've got to like really bring it into my soul. And I've got to look at those 2 weeks and I've got to say, Mordechai, Esther, the first phase of history, the daddy first temple, the mommy second Beis HaMikdash, the second phase of history, those 2 weeks are going to burn and radiate a light, and Be'ezras Hashem will be able to live each week our Purim existence. In fact, to come to that phase of that third Beis HaMikdash. And what's amazing is in the times of Mashiach, Purim doesn't go away because we already live in Purim. Purim is the chag that doesn't go. Anyhow, sorry about my Wi-Fi, ladies. Be'ezras Hashem, next time I join you, I'll make sure it's more in line with Northern Hemisphere, Wi-Fi. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
You
so
are
much.
magnificent.
Amazing. Wow, wow, wow.
Nomi, go ahead.
Yeah, that was magnificent. That was brilliant, gorgeous, magnificent. Nicole, you are like unbelievable. Wow. Anyways, I'm speechless.
I do love you, Nomi. Thank you. Baruch Hashem. I tried.
Wow. I don't know what to say. Wow. Basa, you wanna introduce Gila? You wanna tell everybody Gila is going to, wow, I don't even know. I can't speak.